Hello, I'm Melissa from D&E Crafts, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Starburst bracelet with beads. Now, today I'm going to make the one with the green and red bands. So for this bracelet you'll need 15 red bands, 15 green bands, and approximately 56 black bands. Okay, and you're also going to need 5 white pony beads. Okay, so to begin this design you need to set your loom in the staggered configuration. Okay, and then we need to place the border around the outside of the loom first before we lay the stars of the starburst. So facing the loom with the arrow facing away from you, just get your first colour, which will be the border colour. So for my border we're going to start with black. So we're just going to take the first band and place it on the centre pin and then go diagonally out to the first pin on the right hand side, and then we're just going to start with single bands going up the side of the loom. Okay, so on this one it's just single bands for every section of the bracelet that we do. So just working our way up the side of the right hand side of the loom, as you can see. Now it's important to place these bands quite near the bottom of the pegs, because obviously we have bands to place on top. Okay, so when we reach the last pin on the right hand side, you're just going to place a band around that pin, or sorry, the second to last pin on the right hand side, but we're going to take it to the last pin of the centre row. Okay, so we're just going diagonally back into the centre, and now we are going to go up the left hand side of the loom. So going from the centre peg, we're going to pull the band diagonally across to the first peg on the left hand side, and then we're just going to work our way up the side of the loom, just placing single bands. So this will be the easiest step in this bracelet. And again on this side, making sure that the bands are placed towards the bottom of each peg. And again, when we get to the second to last pin on the left hand side, we're going to take one band from that and take it into the centre. Now on this centre peg we want to take 2 single bands, and we're just going to make a cap band from the 2 single bands. So we're just going to place the 2 bands on the centre, make a figure of 8, so put it away from you, and then cross the bands over and place them back over the pin. Okay, I'll explain why we need that later. So now we want to start placing the stars onto the loom. So we're going to begin with green, and we're going to start at the top of the loom. For this one you may find it easier to work with the loom facing sideways, pointing to the right hand side. So we just go from the centre peg, which is the second peg, and we're going diagonally to the first peg on the left hand side. Then we're just going from the centre peg again to the second peg on the left hand side, and then working our way around the peg diagonally out to the second peg on the right hand side, and then lastly from the centre peg to the first peg on the right hand side, and to create the more definition in the star there, we're just going to put a cap band on the middle of this one. So just pushing down the star, we put the green band on the center peg, put it away from us, and make a figure of 8 once and twice, and just push that cap band down slightly. Now we're going to skip a peg, and then we're going to take the red band and we're going to do the same here. So working from the center peg just diagonally again, now we're going to place 4 bands here again. So from the center peg we can see that we're just making a V both that side and this side, so that we're just making a cross on the loom. Okay, so you can see that we have the green X there with the cap band and the red X here. We're just going to place a cap band on this center pin as well. So just again, place the band, pull it out, make a figure of 8, and make sure you do that 2 times. Okay, again, skip a peg and start from the center peg of this star. And just go clockwise round. And again, placing the cap band there. Okay, so we're going to skip a peg again. Now I'll just lay the red bands. Now with these stars in the middle, it doesn't matter particularly what order you lay the cross in, as long as you've made the correct shape. So however you find easiest when laying the stars, and by all means do what suits you best. So again, leaving a peg and just working away around on the green bands this time. So making sure that we are laying 4 green bands. Okay, just put a cap band on there, and for the last time you're going to leave a space here, and we're just going to go and use the red for the last star of this bracelet. Okay, so as you can see from the start all the way along the loom, we have placed 4 red stars and 3 red stars and 3 green stars. And now we're going to place the pony beads. So for this you're going to need 5 single black bands, and you're just going to pinch the band in the middle or towards one end, and this is just so that we can place it through the middle of the pony beads. So as you can see, once that's placed through the center of the pony beads, you make it makes kind of a figure of 8 shape. We're just going to place one end of that over the first star on the center peg, and we're just going to pull and stretch this black band over to the center of the next star. Now just to make this take a little bit of tension off, we'll place the band over either side of the peg that has nothing on it, and just let the bead relax there in the middle. So we're going to do this for a further 4 times. So again, just grabbing the band placing it through the pony bead and making a figure of 8. I'm going to go from the peg that you've just laid the black band on, place another black band on the center of that peg and gently pull the black band over to the next green star. And this is what we're just going to continue to do, just to fill in the gaps on the loom, and to also make sure that you're getting the complete effect of the Starburst with beads bracelet like that. Okay, and also make sure there's plenty of room on the top of each of the pegs. It might be a little bit tricky because you've got quite a lot of bands placed on each of these center pegs. But just push down slightly so that you have some room to loop the bands back over to the pegs that they've come from. And then the last bead, I'm going to place that in a minute. There we go. Place that onto the last space. So there we have it. There is the band layout and the beads that are placed last. So once you've got to that stage, we previously capped that end there, so that's a good starting point, but we're actually going to loom each of the starbursts first. So just turning the loom so that the arrow at this point is facing towards you, and take your hook, and for each of these stars we're going to pull back the top 4 bands and take the top band and just pull it up through the center, as you can see, and gently pull it across diagonally back to the original pin that it's come from. And you'll see, if you've got it right, you should find a nice teardrop shape here. So we're going to do the same again, go into the middle of the 4 bands, pull the band back and on to the pin it's indicating you should go back to. You should get an idea, once you've done this a couple of times, of which direction the bands are going to go in. If you've laid all of the stars in the same way, then you should be able to do that quite easily. Okay. So we're just going to continue doing that. So that's the first one done. I'm just going to do the same with the green. And gently pulling the bands back to the original places where they've been placed. And this can be a little bit tricky sometimes because they can sometimes overlap or they can stretch too much and they may end up snapping. So just be careful when you're pulling these bands out that they are going to the right place and that we've got them in the right order. It looks like we're doing a good job so far. Just remember that there's 4 bands that you need to go inside on each of the stars and then pull out diagonally back to where the band originally started. So that one there. Sometimes if they do get a little bit caught up, you need to take the pressure off by just pushing your hook inside and pulling back and running your hook around the outside of the bands, just so that you can free up the space there, and it also makes it slightly easier to grab the last band that you need to hook. Alright, so we're getting there. a lot of tension on that one, so I'll just release that off of there. And then we hook that star. And it's quite important with this one that obviously this hooking process is slightly different to a lot of the other bracelets, but is the foundation and the center of this one in order for this band to really work. So just making sure that all the bands are returning to the hooks that they originally started, and in doing that, when they do, because they're returning to where you've placed them in the diagonal direction, you'll find that all of the teardrop drops will form naturally because they generally fall into place. Okay, so the last starburst there is now complete. So we're just going to go back down to the bottom of the band, go inside the double cap band, take the top single band and just pull that out and over to the right hand side. And again, we're going to do this out onto the left hand side. Now, when we're looping up the side of the loom, I'm just going to work my way up one and do each side as we go up. So pull back the top 4 bands, take the bottom band and just pull that out again. Take that border straight forward this time. And again, you'll see the nice teardrop shape there. And the same on the other side. So take back the top 4 bands, grab the band at the bottom and place this over the top of the pin directly ahead of it. So we're just going to work our way up the loom, doing 1 band at a time each side. Making sure that as we go up, all of the bands are correctly hooked. So when you are hooking this, you don't need to go quite as fast as I am doing this. It's important to take your time, especially if there's a bit of tension on the bands as you move forward, because the risk of going too fast does mean that sometimes you'll snap more bands than you actually intend to. If any. Not all of the bands break all the time when you're working at a fast pace, but sometimes they do. So just doing these last couple of bands, and when we get to the top, I'll just show you what you need to do at this point. Okay, so these ones, as you can see, will be going diagonally because they need to go to the center pin. So these two, just pull them over to the center, and the same with the top band there. So we're just going to leave that there on the center pin to start with while we release some of the pressure off the loom. But there you go, that's how it should look once you've finished looming and looping all the bands down the loom. So just use your hook to help you peel off the bands from each pin, because obviously there is a lot of bands on each peg. So just work your way down each side of the loom. This will also tell you if you've got the looping right, because if any of these come undone, you'll know where you've gone wrong. It's always good to check before you do this, just in case. If not, don't worry, we can always start again. Okay, now and if we just release the cap band at the bottom, and then we'll go up the center and just gently put your hook inside each of the starburst and release the hook, but be careful that obviously, because you have the bead in between, so this bit can be a little bit tricky. So if you do need help from an adult, don't be afraid to seek help, because this bit can be quite daunting. And then last but not least, the two at the end. Now when we're taking off the last two, obviously these aren't attached to anything at this moment in time, so in order for you to make the chain so that you have the bracelet that fits right to your wrist, we're just going to take 2 black bands at a time, and we're going to put the hook through the 4 bands that were at the top, and we're just going to put the 2 bands underneath the edge of the hook, pull them tight, and then just pull the 4 bands over the top and create a loop. So very much like a single chain, but we're just using double bands, and we're going to do this 4 times. So we've done it once, twice, 3 times, and once more. And then once we've created that loop, we can just stretch it over our two fingertips, take an S-clip and secure them 4 bands nicely together. So now we're going to go to the other end of the bracelet where the double cap band was placed, and again we're just going to place 4 double bands in a chain this side. Obviously, dependent on how big or small your wrist is, depends on how many links that you're going to put in to this part of the bracelet. Okay, so on this one I'm doing 4. You may need 5, you may need more, you might only need 2. So obviously that can vary a lot. So this is the 3rd one, and last but not least, the final link. And again we're just going to take this off of the hook, place it over our 2 fingertips, and then attach it to the other end of the S-clip or a C-clip if you use them. And there we have it, the Starburst with beads. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy watching the videos, and also in this video the bands that I use are from Daisy Loom, and the link to the website will be included in the description of this video. Thanks again, bye bye.